Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, everyone. I'm here this week.
Yay! It is a rainy afternoon in Truro.
Mhm.
It is a rainy afternoon in Onslow, where we are bringing our guest in from today. We're
Yes.
super excited. I know I say it every week, but it's because I'm excited every week. We're super excited to have our guest with us here today, and I don't even think he needs an intro, so here goes.
Nope.
Here is Jonathan Torrens.
Did it
Hi.
work? Am I here? Hi.
Here. So we will mention, we hope we don't lose you,
Yes.
your country internet, but for so far, so good.
And I chose Kermit the Frog Green as a background for reasons I can't even explain. Mostly because I don't know how to change the virtual background on my laptop.
I thought you had a green screen in your home. That's literally what I thought. I was like, oh, he's so high tech. He's like filming things in his home.
Well, I actually am. When I don't know if you've heard about coronavirus. I don't know if you've heard these unprecedented times. I do a lot of American corporate hosting, and most of it is obviously on the road in places like Vegas and San Diego. And it's mostly national sales meetings where they gather big groups of people together. Obviously, that can't happen right now, but all of these meetings.
Whoa, we've lost you. Time number one. I think this is going to be one of those days, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
Well,
it is.
because it's raining, I think we're having less
There he
luck. There you are.
Am I back? Did I go?
You're back.
I just imagine you're still sitting there talking and we're missing it.
I was. I'm back. Here's the question. Should I real time walk into my house and change internet browsers and see if that's better? Or do we want to keep rolling the dice on this one? This has been my life this year, by the way.
Yeah, let's roll the dice and see how it goes for maybe another time. If we lose you again, maybe we'll regroup.
Okay. So all that to say, I have now been working from home like everyone else, but I'm broadcasting on the Zoom to these corporate clients from all over the States. The only problem is I don't really have good internet. And as I was saying to you before we went live, if my neighbors are banging Fortnite, I'm out, like my internet doesn't work as well.
Well, hopefully they're all at work and they're not on their Fortnite, on their video games, but who knows?
Time will tell. Oh, and when it rains, by the way, that further complicates things because my internet often doesn't work in the rain.
Oh, it's 2020, you know. Come on.
You should be lobbying for that rural internet, Jonathan.
I called Bell and said, any chance of the fiber op? And they said, to be honest, we're concentrating on Prince Edward Island right now. I was like, okay, so could I pay for it? Like, how much would it cost to run the fiber op up my road? And they said, I think it's $1,000 per 100 feet. So someone better at math than me could figure out how many feet there are in a kilometer, because I'm about a kilometer up this road. But that's not street sense money. I don't have that kind of money.
I like it. So actually, you mentioning PEI is a good segue because, you know, I think we've had a couple of questions from people like, so you don't actually have to be from Truro to be Truro famous. And of course, you don't. We adopt people, and you are one of the people that we have adopted as our own. I hope you realize.
Well, I'm curious about the phrase Truro famous. Is it people that are famous within the town of Truro? I guess hearing you say that, it's not people who are from here necessarily. What are the criteria?
I'm going to leave that one to you, Michelle, because you always say it so eloquently.
It's really broad. We're not picky. I always say it's either people who are famous within Truro or have gone outside of Truro and done really cool things. Like our very first guest was Corey. So, you know, he's a boy from Truro who's done amazing things outside of the town. But usually the guests that we've had are people know them within the town. So
right.
Joke, you know, if you're Truro famous, you've really made it. So.
Well, okay, but why do you joke? You use that phrase in italics. Is it funny to you?
I think it's not necessarily funny to us, but looking at it from the outside, like my friends from the city are like, oh, you know, because they have hella famous. And I'm like, right. No, Truro famous is far harder to earn than hella
So what's Onslow famous?
You should start that hashtag.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually didn't realize we used it in italics. I didn't realize we were being facetious with our.
I think they were.
Oh, now she's getting good. You have different definitions of what it means, the two of you. This is interesting.
It really is.
You guys can hash it out.
That will be next week. We'll just have a battle over what we mean by Truro famous live.
Yeah.
That'll be next week. The last time, of course, this is pre-pandemic. The last time that I saw you was when you did your recording of your podcast at the Marigold Center. And I just have to say, I'm going to nerd out for just 1 second, because it was the first time that I'd heard you do your Byron bit. And I swear I've not laughed that hard in my life. Like, to me, that is like the epitome of good humor. And then you made a video of it this summer, and I was just like, best thing to come out of the pandemic. Totally.
So nice of you to say. Thanks for coming. The podcast has been an interesting kind of gathering place for all the sort of half-baked notions I've had over the years. I realized that doing shows like Mr. D and Trailer Park even, it's really fun, but there's often like a 6-month window after you make the episode till it comes out in the world. And I hadn't made anything in this particular moment when you can get real-time feedback and incorporate it into next week's episode. And the thing about a podcast, as you know, it's one of the only warts and all environments. So we try things, they don't all work. It makes the things that do work seem to work that much better. People will say, we'd love to see that guy again. People will say, we don't ever want to see that character again. So it's a real treat to get to kind of calibrate it on the fly. And we expected that some of the things we do would translate to a live environment, certainly the games and things like that. But the characters and sort of doing improv in front of an audience is like flying close to the sun, because sometimes you get burned and it just sits there. But it makes the moments that do land that much more rewarding. So the inspiration for Byron was, I don't know if you had it in Truro, but in Charlottetown, we had Swap Shop on the radio. And someone would call in and say, I have a pair of boys size 7 micron skates, and I'm looking to trade for a Wankel rotary engine. Like the most specific, weird parameters. Before Kijiji, of course. So this Byron guy is a character who hosts a radio show where people call him with stuff to sell, and he tries to beat them down.
It's so good. And that song is, since you put the song out, it's just like an earworm for me. So now that I've brought it up to you, I will be singing it for the rest of the day.
Good. Well, the podcast has allowed me to do things I never thought I would do. We wrote a book a couple of years ago. We made an album. We've toured. Like, I never imagined in my career I would do those things, but at this age and stage, I'm looking for kicks. I'm looking for things I've never done before and the opportunity to try different things. So it's been really satisfying.
And you're like, I feel like you're that guy who's everywhere. Like, I see you everywhere. I see you doing, I mean,
Sobeys and Giant Tiger and Frank and Gino's.
Mostly Bistro 22.
Yeah, no kidding.
But like, and especially during the pandemic, I think early on too, your voice was so appreciated at the beginning of course, when the mass shooting happened, and you being a part of the chat with Michael Landsberg and being part of all of those things, or not Michael Landsberg, but the first one.
Nova Scotia Remembers.
Thank you. It's just so great that you're so supportive. I mean, we said you're not from here. I think you've kind of adopted this as your home too, obviously, but it's so great to see your support behind all of that.
Well, I have a complicated relationship with the internet. And as you know, so much of it is bad. And especially on social media platforms, so much of it is bickering, and it doesn't help. It's an echo chamber, and people are shouting over each other and typing in all caps. So I made a conscious decision before coronavirus to try to use it as an outlet for positivity and light. And as a friend of mine said, it doesn't behoove you to share your opinion because there are 1,000 people waiting around the corner to tell you why it's wrong. And if you say good morning, inevitably someone will type well, what about all the people that are having a bad morning? If you just know that's going to happen and expect it, and put stuff out there that is as much for my own benefit as anyone else's on some days, and focus on the people that are like, man, I really needed to hear that today, or I appreciate your positivity through this time. I think in April with Nova Scotia Remembers, it was, I was approached by a couple of people from Portapic asking if I would contribute a video to what became this special that was carried on all the networks. It's not often in Onslow I'm able to use my particular skills to contribute, right? As you know, people in the country barter. I'll do your electrical, you do my plumbing. No one needs hosting done out here. So it felt good in an awful time to be able to contribute what I can do, which is sort of organize all these disparate elements. And I feel like politicians have to maybe be so stoic and so buttoned up and use the right turn of phrase. I felt, because, as I said at the time, it didn't happen to me, but it happened near me, and near enough to me that I knew people that were involved. I felt like someone from the community had to show how much this hurt. And it was frankly probably more vulnerable than I'm typically comfortable being. But I think in these especially unique circumstances, I've heard from a lot of people, we needed permission to just say, this is the worst. And that gave a lot of people the freedom to sort of let the dam open, you know?
I totally agree. And I think seeing that vulnerability is such an important piece to that, because, you know, we always throw around the word strong in these situations. And of course, it was called Nova Scotia Strong. But I think showing that sign of resilience, I guess, is being down, but finding ways to get back up, I think is even more important.
Well, I was saying to Tom Power on Q, like, it's such a cliche and so on the nose to talk about the weather in this part of the world, but I think in the last few months, mental health is kind of the same way. And you might be happy in the morning and you might be inconsolable in the afternoon. And if ever there was a time that that's understandable, it's now. And I think, I mean, there are so many legit, genuine emotions to have in the last several months. And I just keep coming back to however you feel is okay. But, you know, there aren't enough words for unprecedented and all that stuff. These are strange times. And one of the things that I've wrestled with, and it's a weird one, is the guilt around feeling happy. I've enjoyed having my girls home. I love who I live with. I really appreciate being able to make a living and not being on the road right now. But I know, tell someone with 18-month-old toddler boy twins who are throwing lamps around their house while they're on a Zoom call. I know that's not everyone's experience. And how maritime-y is it to feel sheepish about being content? Like, there's got to be a word for that too.
I feel like even just using the word sheepish makes you a maritime, like, that you're from the Maritimes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a worldwide term or not, but no, I completely get what you're saying. And yeah, that guilt is absolutely real. I feel it myself to still be able to continue to work from home as well. So I think a lot of people can relate to that.
And to allow yourself, like, there are different layers of disappointment. We had a trip planned in March. We had to cancel it for obvious reasons. That was really disappointing. And even though I know in the big picture how lucky we are, we have our health, people are tangling with so much more important, bigger, weightier things, I think it's naive to not allow yourself a moment of disappointment, to go, man, that kind of sucks. And I'm surprised when it creeps up, and in the weirdest ways. Like, Carol and I were out for a walk the other day, and I said out loud, oh man, remember New York? Like it had gone away or somehow doesn't exist anymore. And it's not like that was our second home, or we spent a lot of time there, but we've been a couple times. And it was really fun. And it just hadn't occurred to me till that moment. oh man, that's a place we can't just go right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
sort
I
of
had that same feeling. I was like, I went to PEI last weekend and I was so excited because I'm like, I'm in a place where I don't live.
right.
It was just, you know, that disappointment you have when you just can't go somewhere, or you have to, it disappointment is exactly the right word, and the different levels of it, but we all carry our own stuff, right? It's like, yeah. It's
Or
like
maybe
that.
Charlottetown becomes our new New York.
Yeah.
And I just
There you
keep, I'm an
go.
optimist by nature. I just keep assuming people will come out the other side of this having asked themselves some hard questions. Am I living with the person I'm supposed to be? Am I
Yeah.
doing the job that I love? If time is this fleeting, what changes should I make in my life to make sure that I'm making the most of it? And if there's anything you have right now, it's time to be asking yourself those questions. So it'll be interesting to see who moves, who goes back to school, who breaks up, who calls the one that got away. Like,
And how businesses continue to do business too, because like you said, maybe some of your travel will still be cut down because you'll be moving to more of an online focus or whatever. So there's going to be things like that, I think, that come into play too.
yeah, I saw someone, Ronnie Lovett, actually. He's a Halifax-based business guy. He started Source Security years ago, kind of a man about town. He was talking about businesses in this particular era, and there are sort of three types of businesses. One is the type that will just kind of wait, see where things go. The second is the type of business that will automatically sort of fill a gap in this time, like they don't have to do much. And the third type of business is if it doesn't come back the way we expect it will, how can we alter or morph what we do to fill a gap right now? And his point was, that's a question businesses should be asking themselves at the best of times anyway. What could we be doing differently or better or more? So I've been doing the same thing. Like, how can what I do be of any relevance in this particular moment?
Yeah, I've said that 2020 is like, it's not a learning curve, it's a learning roller coaster. Because, you know, just when you think you've got it under control, you're on your way up to tackle something new. And I work with a couple of festivals and we went online. Was it the same? No. But, you know, 2020 is the year of anything's better than nothing, right? So
the year of hindsight, 2020.
Yeah.
So, Jonathan, I don't know if you can see, but we do have some folks asking questions in the comments.
Nice.
And there's one question from Sarah McCurdy. She says, what was your favorite show to be a part of, and why was it Street Sense?
I feel like that's a leading question.
It may be a leading question. She says it was the highlight of her after-school junior high experience.
Awesome. Well, first of all, Sarah, aim higher. Second of all, I will say, as TV school, Street Sense was phenomenal for so many reasons. It was a chance to be myself on camera, which is a really hard thing to do. It was a chance to create original sketch characters. It was a chance to parody the Don Cherries and whoever else's of Canadian pop culture at the time. So I remember calling Ryerson a few years in a row saying, I'd like to come study radio and television arts. And the registrar I spoke to said, why? You're working, stay where you are. Our graduates would love to have a gig like that. So the lesson that I learned was show up early, stay late, ask questions, take on extra work. Biggest of all, learn to take criticism, which is a hard thing to do. And it's such an important thing to do. So she's not wrong. Street Sense is definitely a highlight, but I have a secret affection for a show I did in the States called the Joe Schmo Show, which is a fake reality show on Spike TV. So just as far as playing a character, if you don't know the premise, it was a fake reality show. So a couple of real people, everyone else is an actor. They don't know that everyone else is an actor. So I played a character named Gerald from Canada and had to uphold that for 2 weeks, which was a pretty cool challenge. Including remembering to turn around when someone said, hey, Gerald. Oh, all right, that's me.
Is that even a name? I don't even think I've ever heard that as a name, so that makes it even better.
Based on a college professor of one of the writers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. But
So
the interesting thing was we had to sign a $5 million confidentiality agreement that if we blew the secret, we were on the hook for $5 million. So the first thing is remembering to turn around when someone says Gerald. And the second thing is you have this secret spring loaded in your throat. And when you know the magnitude of this secret, all you want to do in the world is say, this whole thing is a joke. We're an actor. Like you're actively working to suppress the truth, which requires a shocking amount of energy.
That's awesome. And Sarah responded, words to live by. Not that last part, but she heard what you said. And just going back to Street Sense, of course, that was your first gig, right?
It was. I was in a shopping center commercial for Bayers Road Shopping Center as one half of a 2-person horse costume. That was my first ever on-camera appearance. Yeah. But Street Sense was my second.
Okay.
And it was like CBC Saturday morning consumer affairs show for teenagers. It wasn't cool in the halls of St. Pat's High School. It wasn't like, there's that guy from 90210. Like it did not have that kind of cachet. I hear now and I get in hindsight why it was pretty cool and pretty groundbreaking, but it didn't ever feel it at the time.
Right. It's like Nova Scotia's Luke Perry kind of idea, or
I never had that rap. Although I feel like we did a 90210 parody at some point, and I played Luke Perry, and it was probably 9021 like OWE, like about some bad teens who are in debt.
Or just
the show today.
Like area code 902, you know?
You know what? That might have been that. Would have been smart.
And so that was when you were living in Halifax. When I'm gonna fast forward here, what brought you to Truro? When did you make Truro or Onslow your home?
I lived in California. So after Street Sense, I did John Vision for 5 years. I wanted to do a late night show in Canada. The head of programming at CBC at the time felt I hadn't proven I could carry an audience by myself, and he thought adults wouldn't take me seriously in that role. I felt otherwise. I felt that the people who started watching me when they were teenagers were now, like me, also grown-ups. Yeah. So it was just basically the same show, but after dark. They wanted another season of John Vision. I didn't want to do that. So I went to LA basically out of self-imposed exile to see kind of what else was out there. And really liked it, which surprised me. Made friends for life and had good work opportunities, and the climate's pretty hard to beat, but it wasn't home. So I moved back to Halifax, was sort of getting my ducks in a row to see what I wanted to do. Maybe I was going to go back to school, be a realtor, something else entirely. TV opportunities kept coming, and I met Carol, who's from out here. And my feeling was, as long as she was willing to live with me, I didn't care where that was. Hadn't spent a whole lot of time down here, but really liked it. So it's been like probably 12 years now.
I was thinking this morning, you were the MC at the very last fundraising event I did as my career as a fundraiser at the hospital foundation.
I remember.
And like 8 years ago. And I was like, but he had lived here for a while before he did that. So I was trying to kind of think back that I think that you moved to Truro before I moved back to Truro 10 years ago.
My eldest daughter is going to be 11 in November. And Carol and I were married for 10 months before she was born. So probably close to 12 years.
Wow.
And it's come a long way, man. I feel like so many of the elements in Truro, like the ingredients of the salad, are excellent. I feel like the bowl still needs a bit of work. Like sometimes I wrestle with, my kids dance in town, so I have a couple of hours in town and think, what should I do? And we're lucky to have Victoria Park. That's beautiful. I think I like a lot of the places on Inglis, for example. I wish it was interlocking brick and a walkway and there was a stage outside and music at night. And I wish it was a destination in and of itself, especially if we're trying to draw people from the highway. Like it's 10-minute rip from the highway, so there has to be a reason to want to do that.
Yeah.
But it's come a long way as far as culture and restaurants from different parts of the world, which didn't exist when I first moved here. And you realize slowly it's changing, right?
And we've had that conversation a bit in different Truro Famous Live chats that we've had, that a lot of people are feeling that way too. And that I love your analogy of the bowl and the salad, because it's true. It's like I feel like we're so close, but we just haven't quite put we haven't quite put the dressing on yet. We'll put it that way.
Right.
And I'm just going to give a shout out to, because Trevor from Hub Grub is watching, and of course he's one of the great businesses on Inglis.
Yeah, he sure is.
He's one of their marketing. I mean, they're just so amazing. But he's part of that. I think some of the new businesses that have cropped up in the last 5 years or so, and don't quote me on that. I don't know how long Hub Grub's been here, but I think him and, like you said, some of the other restaurants and some of the other events and things have really shifted that for us, and hopefully will continue to.
Well, yeah, and it's getting vibey, to use an overused word. Like it's Ben Brush, right, who was the designer at home for a while. Now he's kind of gone freelance and he's designing things. Like you notice the signs in Bible Hill. Like, okay, Bible Hill, I see your sign campaign and I'm feeling it. Like it's so close, and I know what we mean. It just hasn't totally landed yet. Because to be honest, there are a lot of great things to eat on Inglis. You can only physically eat so much, and every time I go in town and don't need to eat, I'm like, well, aside from eating, what can I do?
Yeah,
you can drink.
Yeah, true.
But there is that.
That's true.
It is true. But the event side of things, obviously with the coronavirus, those aren't happening as much, but hopefully as things kind of gear up. I mean, the Marigold, we already talked about the Marigold, has been so great, particularly in the last 3 years, in terms of getting great sold out shows.
Unbelievable.
That'll continue to.
And every time I go to the Marigold, and I'm guilty of it, I think, why don't we do this more? And part of the reason is because we have young kids, and it's not always easy, and life is busy, and all the legit excuses that everyone uses. But it would be really sad if our town didn't sustain a place like the Marigold. And I don't mean to knock Truro. Like I say, there are a lot of reasons to go downtown. There are a lot of great places to eat. I like what the Nook and Cranny's done on that little side street. And one of the great things about a town is that it can be nimble and make a decision like that, to let the Nook and Cranny in this particular moment have a patio on the side. Like I get it. I know that things are happening, and sounds like we all agree. Like it's close.
Yes.
It's just that kind of cohesiveness that might be missing a little bit, but we're getting there. And I'm surprised. Sorry, I'm just shouting out to Trevor again. He's been open for 7 years. That surprises me for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great.
That's huge.
Yeah. So I'm jumping ahead with this question, Michelle, just because I want to make sure we have enough time to ask it properly or get an answer. What are those places? Like, if you have people coming from outside of town that you're bringing, that are staying at your home, what are those places that you like to show off when you are bringing people in town?
Well, Bistro 22 is a staple for us. I really like the cinnamon biscuits there on Fridays. The servers are great. I thought, boy, there's a great example with what Dennis has done in the last few months when he was doing curbside pickup.
Yes.
That was a really smart way to look at your business and say, what can I actually offer right now? Became an outing that we looked forward to as a family during lockdown. Like, guess what? We get to drive to town and back, because as the goalposts for excitement kept shifting at its darkest, that was like, this is amazing. We get to see another human as we open the trunk from a distance and he put some meat in our car.
He was so diligent too, because he was like, you know, you have to open your back door and leave it open. And he had like a process that he went through. He was very meticulous about the protocols, which is really important too. So you could trust that he was doing it right.
Yes. Have to shout out Trevor because he's on here, and also because the burgers and fries are delicious. Jamali's is a great place to go. I was so sad about Novelty. I kept seeing, as I'm sure you did during the last few months, like support the local guys because they're going to be here for you in a way that the big guys aren't. I love going to Bike Monkey. I love that they put air in your tires for free. It's those little things as a consumer that you never forget. Like how you go to an optometrist and they'll tighten your glasses and it's no charge even if you bought them somewhere else, because that's just a thing that optometrists do. Yeah. So I've been making a conscious effort to support the local businesses as much as I can. I like sauced pizza, like the wings that belly up. There's a lot to like.
Oh yeah, that pizza's delicious. That sauce, I agree. Yeah. This actually made me lose my train of thought because you brought up the sauce.
We're suddenly getting hungry, right? It's like,
yeah.
I missed my lunch. So yeah, supporting local. I mean, obviously that's what with Local Love Truro, that's what we're all about. And it's so cool to see. And obviously it's not cool that the building burned down, but cool to see the community and the business community, competitors of the businesses that were shut down because of the fire, rallying and supporting all of those businesses. I mean, it's cool. Truro's great that way.
Yeah.
It really is. And as the old saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats. And if there are more reasons to go to town, that's good for all of us. So it's important for businesses to support each other. I know you can't tell by looking at me, but I've had 2 slices of Fraser's whole wheat toast every day, I think, since I moved here. That's another place that we go a lot for whatever reason. My father-in-law, who had a business in Onslow for years and years, always says, and he's right, at least try to buy something here. And I think there's kind of a culture in small towns where you like to say, do you like my jacket? I got it in Montreal, or we went on a shopping trip to Halifax. His feeling is try to buy it here. And then if you can't, look elsewhere, but at least start here. And when you sort of approach things with a mindset like that, there really isn't too much you can't get here.
I agree 100%. And a lot of times too, it's the business owners who own that information. So if you're going into, I'm just going to use Elegant Steps as an example, and she doesn't sell what you have, oftentimes Karen will be the one to tell you where locally you can get the thing you're looking for, you know, so there's that benefit as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's
the garbage truck just by my house, so that I muted myself there for a second.
It's a wrestling match between the Roby Street of it all and the Inglis place of it all. And I don't know, it comes down to personal taste, I guess, and convenience. But the more we can support the Inglis place of it all, the more unique our town will be and the more of a destination it will become.
Very true.
Here's the other thing. We haven't even talked about the cost of living here and how maybe as people realize I'm working from home, I might as well buy a 5-bedroom house for $146,500 instead of for $1.7 million in Halifax, right? I've lived in cities, as maybe you have, where it takes an hour to drive across the city at rush hour. Yeah. So when I've been working on things in Burnside, for example, and it's 40 minutes to get to work or 52 minutes to get across the bridge, that's nothing.
Oh man, you hit it. Yeah. I mean, I think we're all in that scenario with owning homes and you know, especially now, like you said, we're not traveling as much, but to be able to own the size home we have and to be able to know the people in our community, in our downtown, it's also relevant.
Yes. Here's one thing, and it's, again, not a knock, but something to consider. We've owned a couple of buildings in town and looked at another couple, and the process to bring them up to code has been cost prohibitive. And in one case, we would have had to pay more in gyprock to make the building up to fire code by today's standards than we paid for the building in the first place. So whoever the visionary is behind the town has to get everyone else on board with, you know what, let's work with younger people who want to invest in the town and save some of these old buildings. Let's find unique solutions and ways that we can legitimately bring these buildings back, because it's in all of our best interests. There are so many of those big old rambly buildings in town, and it would be a shame to see them torn down.
Very much so.
There's my rant.
Then just going back to the whole, Robie Street versus Inglis, there was such a little buzz there on Twitter a couple of weeks ago when Starbucks opened on Robie Street, and I tweeted back at somebody from the city. I said, that's for you guys when you're driving through and you're too lazy to navigate your way downtown. Because, give me, a chai latte from Jamali's or novelty first. And I don't even think of Starbucks when I'm in Truro. So
I don't either. And it's sort of a novelty, so to speak, if you're somewhere else to go into Starbucks, like on Spring Garden Road or something. I don't think of going to the Starbucks here, but it is, as a friend of mine from New Glasgow said, Truro, when I was a kid, was always a place where you got out your quarters for the bridge. Like, really? That's all you knew Truro as? So I think we've come a long way since then. And it just shows that we have energy and enthusiasm, that we're not saying our work is done, it's perfect. Nowhere is perfect.
Do you know the comedian Peter Anthony from Pictou County? He has a great bit that he did at Halifax Comedy Festival about how Truro is where you stop to take a pee. Like, that's what the whole bit is about. That, they're like, it's a bit about place names, and he's like, and then you have Truro, the place where you stop to take a pee, going everywhere else.
I know.
Thanks for putting that
terrible rap.
Peter.
Where's
it's happening. First of all, it doesn't take 50 minutes to get quarters out. I just want to make that known.
Yeah.
Like, I would just
more about people from New Glasgow than it does about
That's hilarious. So I ask this question each time, and it's kind of a funny question at times, just because a lot of times people don't really know the answer. But what is next for you? What is the next project that's coming up for you?
I started a little production company called Canadianity Content Studios with a couple of colleagues. And our business model is we self-finance pilots for shows that we really care about, and then try to find a sponsor or partner that agrees with us and wants to help pay for it to make it. So we've been having pretty good success. We've been making this show called Your 2 Cents for Atlantic Credit Unions. Done a couple of seasons of it, which is really fun. It's kind of street sense for 20-somethings. And we currently have a show called Who Do You Think I Am?, which is hosted by a young woman named Madison Tevlin, who has Down syndrome. But as she would say, that's the least interesting thing about me. And she interviews people who are also used to being judged based on the way they look. So it's a pretty timely show. She's a very engaging and lively interviewer. So it was just given funding by CBC's Creative Relief Fund. Great. So we are working on going into production on 10 episodes of Who Do You Think I Am?
That's an incredible thing. That sounds like a fantastic series. I can't wait to see that.
It is. It was really interesting. The pilot that we shot was with a guy named Ham Bone, who's like tall, tattooed and muscular and kind of intimidating guy. His favorite color is pink. He loves cats. He doesn't really drink. He's vegan. So everything she expected would be true of him at first glance was not. The second episode we did was with this young woman in leather pants with hair extensions and makeup perfect. She is a woman who works in tech and former hockey player, and she defied all of the stereotypes that you might assume about her as well. So it's been an interesting journey for Maddie, because she realizes, wait a second, I do that too. She took one look at Allie and was like, I'll have nothing in common with her. And within 90 seconds, they realized, your mom's your idol? My mom's my idol. And it doesn't take long to connect.
That's amazing.
I love that. And I was reading a comment, and I think I missed if you said when that was coming out, Jonathan.
Well, there are 2 episodes on the internet now, but it's sort of in the development stream at CBC right now. We're just looking for a couple of partners to get it across the finish line.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. And I love the realization. I mean, because you can sit back and judge and say, how come they're treating me this way? And it's all about me, but not necessarily have the perspective that, oh my gosh, I do that same thing that bothers me that other people do, right?
One, and Maddie, like Down syndrome wouldn't be on a list of 100 words she would use to describe herself. And that was so obvious. It sounds so obvious to say out loud, but it was really eye-opening. And the coolest thing was seeing her like realize other people feel judged based on the way they look. So it feels like at this particular moment, there's a lot of common ground to be found. So that's a real exciting thing that's in the pipeline.
I feel like everybody's learning so much about themselves right now, just with all of the challenges that we're faced with. And like you said, that's perfect timing to develop that into this series. It's awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's been great.
So just one last comment here. Alicia, who's from Newfoundland, had always heard that Truro is where you stop for gas.
True too.
Yeah, and Trevor prefers the hub of Nova Scotia versus the place to pee.
Right.
It's like the place to be, the place to pee. We could make it work, Trevor. I mean,
the hub grub of Nova Scotia, I think, is what he's after.
Yeah. Oh, that's why he prefers that, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, listen, I know you have to head out here shortly. We really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today.
I really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for your patience with me as a freelancer. As you know, when people are like, what are you doing next Wednesday? It's like, I don't know what I'm doing when I hang up from this call. So it's hard to plan, but everyone is used to being patient with each other in the last few months because nobody knows what's next.
If not now, then when? Yeah, exactly.
True story.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll stay tuned to all your exciting projects that you have coming up as well.
Well, I just wanted to put a plug in for my new podcast, Onslow Famous, that drops tonight. I am the only guest. I will sit down with myself.
I bet if you dig deep enough, you can find some other Onslow Famous people that you can.
No kidding. There's lots of them out here. I'm famous here as being the guy who doesn't know how to do a single thing for himself. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. And we are going to thank y'all for joining us and for watching us chat with Jonathan. As always, if you're just tuning in this minute, you can check it out on our Facebook page. It'll be up, and we'll have it on Instagram and YouTube as well, or website.
It's on YouTube, but if you go to localoftruro.ca, we have all of them there. So you can, well, now this is our 17th episode, we said.
Yes.
Have a good, 15 hours of watching pleasure of watching us go from June to October.
And watching me in various rooms in my house, because I think I've shown you every square inch of my home over the last.
I've just had my pineapple head for the past few months, but the hair's gone droop, and it's come and gone, and.
Well, thanks all for joining, and we will be back next week. We hope to see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.